Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get Embodied, simple practices to transform your life in 30 days or less and beyond. My name is Kate Marolt with Soul Wild Free, where we work to really get you down into your body, out of your head, and really cool with everything about you and who you are, so that you can feel secure in yourself and at home anywhere in the world doing anything that you desire. So I am super excited about today's hangout because embodiment is really the crux, like the point of it all. You know, we can talk a lot about self-development. We can talk a lot about these concepts that we understand intellectually. If you see me touching my ears, I'm adjusting my headphones. But these lots of concepts around like abundance and authenticity and creating the lives of our dreams and getting a higher, like a different mindset and up leveling. But if we only do it here in our head and don't drop it down into our body, the shifts that we're trying to make and the things that we're trying to experience, that's where we come up against resistance. That's where we come up against like all that stuckness between being where you're at and where you want to go. Because if your entire body isn't on board with where you're going, it's going to be really hard to try and convince it to change. Hence, embodiment. And so just so you know a little bit about me and my background, just in case you're not familiar, I am a former full-time yoga teacher and fitness professional, and I still incorporate a lot of fitness and yoga and movement into the practices that I do. And so I was in that world for about 3 years, and I started shifting over into combining like coaching and mindset training with the physical fitness, with the movement, because I noticed that a lot of the time people would come in to work with me and, you know, they'd want to lose weight, or they'd want to be able to do a perfect chaturanga in yoga or something like that. But there was always an underlying reason why. Like, why is that so important to you? Why is that a thing that is going to, you know, give you happiness and purpose and meaning, or whatever it is that you were seeking? And so when we started to combine the real intention and the real root behind the practice and the goals, there was this amazing melding of mind and body and connection that really created lasting transformation, amazing results, and a lot more people living life really happy, fully experiencing everything that they desire. So that's kind of where I'm coming at from this, for this sake, for this hangout, for these sorts of things. And real quick, just so that you kind of have my definition of embodiment, to me, to be embodied is like to be here, to be physically present in your body right now. Not, you know, living in your brain somewhere else, but really right here, connected to your physical form, connected to what's going on down there, everything in your body. It's feeling all aspects of your physical home, really fully experiencing every inch of your life. Like I mentioned before, you know, it's not just to say that you're going to do this or do that, or to like get something conceptually, but it's really stepping into being and doing all of that in total alignment with who you are and with the values that matter most to you. So instead of, you know, just trying to be more loving or more adventurous, for example, it looks like really pulling that into yourself and living your life more adventurous, making those choices to be more loving. So when you're embodied, you get to be fully you. You get to be wild and free and do whatever you desire. And you also get to be really deeply rooted and connected to yourself, to your community, and to the world around you. You don't have to hide from what really matters to you. You quit kind of giving into excuses. You make some bold moves, and you have a great ability to speak your truth, to get yourself out there. So you're not just dreaming about the life that you could have, you're actually living it. And I think that that's what most of us want. And when you're embodying your values and making decisions based on that life, you don't have to be stuck in your current reality. And any situation is open to possibility. It's open to freedom. It's open to you creating it how you truly, truly want it to be. So that's what embodiment is to me. It's not keeping things on the intellectual or esoteric level. It's really bringing it into, well, what does that look like in my reality today? And so I think I talked about this a little bit, but like, why be in your body? Why should I be in my body? You know, I get that question every once in a while, or people are like, yeah, like I want to be in my body. I think that that's a good idea, but I don't know why. Like, why is that such an important thing? And it really is like, I mean, I'm going to totally get all these facts wrong because I didn't look them up beforehand, but science says that there's more gray matter in our gut than there is in our brain. So all that stuff that like creates our spirit, creates our ability to discern and make decisions and do all these things, there's actually more like, it's a gut instinct, right? There's more of that in your body than there is in your head. And so your body is trying to help you make decisions. It's trying to give you feedback and understanding and like letting you know about signals from your environment, signals from the food you're eating, situations, people, everything. Your body is giving you all sorts of feedback all of the time. When we're only here in our heads, not only can it be difficult if you're out of practice to know what your body is saying, we might not even be aware that we're getting signals and that there's actually some attunement that we can do there with our body. And so, like if you have your own business, if you're constantly strategizing and making decisions from your head, but nothing quite feels right, bringing it back into your body and having the answers come from in there and like figuring out what your body has to say, that's kind of the missing piece. And if we're not paying attention to our physical body, if you're not eating right and exercising and getting enough sleep and drinking enough water and doing these things to keep our bodies optimized, it's really hard to think straight and to think clearly and to continuously have creativity and possibility. And that's where we kind of get stuck, where we get lost or we get confused. So being in your body, connecting with your body, taking care of your body, true embodiment of your values has a lot less to do with what you're doing in the world and a lot more with who you're being and what sort of decisions and choices you're making in any given moment in order to not outwardly create what you want, but inwardly create it so that it shows up in your life. So there's 4 areas of embodiment, 4 areas of, I guess, being at home, 4 areas of self. And those 4 are physical, mental, emotional, and energetic. So physical embodiment, that's probably the easiest one to start. It's like feeling your body. It's like engaging your muscles, like knowing what's happening in your body. Where is your body in space? You know, I'm like where I'm seated right now. Like, am I aware of how far away the wall is behind me? Do I know how much space I take up? If I'm moving throughout the world, you know, am I like constantly running into things or like missing steps? Or are you aware of where you are in space? Side note, I'm constantly running into things, but I like to say that that's because I'm always looking around me, but that's a part of awareness. It's like physical awareness, physical sense of what's happening in your body and what's happening around your body. So the second area is mental embodiment. And that kind of sounds interesting, like mental and embodiment, mind, body. But this is a really, really important one. They're all really important, but this is important because a lot of times what happens in our brain, what happens in our thoughts is that we just run programs over and over and over again. And depending on what sort of training you've done or how much you're aware that your thoughts create your reality or where your belief systems are, a lot of times those programs just run without us even realizing it. Your subconscious just takes over. Like if you're in the middle of something and you start to wander off in your head, where do you go? Or if you're, you know, have a moment where you don't really have anything to do, what is it that you're thinking about? And if we're not actively creating those thought patterns and actively creating those mental capacities, stories that were created when we were little, stories that we've picked up over the years, those are what's running the show. And I'm guessing if you're here, you're not really that interested in having those stories be the way they are for the rest of your life. You'd probably rather create new stories or shifting into different realities that support who you want to be and support your being. So embodying your mind is like really being vigilant about what you're thinking, about checking in and becoming aware of your thoughts, of your beliefs, of when you're kind of triggered or hit by something, and noticing, when you're judging or assuming or, elated and excited, like what turns you on and what turns you off. Like that's mental embodiment, is getting really clear on those things, and then continuously putting those programs, those stories, those beliefs into your head so that becomes the way that you see the world. So emotional embodiment, number 3, these all tie in together. Emotional embodiment is really taking responsibility for your emotions. I love the way that, I don't remember who she got it from, but in the Desire Map, Danielle Laporte talks about feelings versus emotions. And this Jung talks about this a little bit, when you're talking about what's the difference between a feeling and an emotion. So in the Desire Map, it says that the feeling is like the sensation, the physical sensation in the body. It's just like a feeling, it's visceral, that happens. And the emotion is the story that we attach to that feeling. And so the emotion is what happens when we create meaning for the feeling that we're experiencing in our bodies. And what Carl Jung would say, is that a feeling is a little bit, it's more even. It's something that we can sustain. So you can sustain a feeling of contentment. You can sustain a feeling of peace. You can sustain like a low level feeling of anxiety, for example. And then the emotion is like an intense burst of like ecstatic joy, of like rage, of, things that don't stay forever. And this is a very simplified way of saying all of this, but what all that means for emotional embodiment to me is that we have to become really aware of where our emotions live in our body, where they live in our energy field. Like when I'm feeling angry, for example, like how does that physically feel? Not just the story that comes up in my head around why I'm angry, but like what is physiologically happening in my body when I'm feeling that? Especially for the more intense ones, like where is that showing up? And if you're talking about the more even-keeled feelings that you can sustain, knowing where those are too, and we're going to talk about this more in the practices, but knowing where those feelings, those emotions kind of live in our space, live in our physical space, and what stories come up around them mentally, that can help us to start to become aware of when we feel things, why we feel things, and how to move that energy kind of out of your body if you don't want it, and how to bring in more of the feelings that you do want. So the 4th type of embodiment is energetic embodiment. And this kind of ties the other 3 all together, in that the way that we show up energetically is far more noticed, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. It's as humans, whether we're conscious of it or not, we can sense energy. We can sense what other people are really thinking, what their real intentions are, even if they're saying something different. Like I could come in and be like, if I'm super tired and like everything about my body says, please just go take a nap. But I could come in and be like, oh yeah, I'm super pumped up. I'm so excited. And like, you might believe me for a little bit, but unless I sustain that like fake kind of energy push out, you're going to be like, are you sure? Like, I'm pretty sure you don't seem like you're all that excited. We can tell what that means. And so to be embodied energetically, it's to really take responsibility for the energy that you're bringing into a place. If you are feeling like super agitated and like you just want to like yell at somebody or do something, like hit a wall, whatever it is, and you go into a public place and maybe you try to have a conversation with somebody, like that's not probably the energy you want to bring into a connection. Maybe it is, I don't know. But like knowing what sort of energy you're bringing into a space, and what is cool about this is that when you kind of become aware of that, like, oh yeah, you become aware of the other 3, like here's where my physical body is in space. Here's the thoughts that are going through my head. Here is the emotion and the feeling that I'm having right now. You can start to use energy to create intentionally what we want to put out into the world. And so you might, for example, going back to the tired example, you might actually be pretty tired, but if you know that there's something that's important to you, you need to show up and be present and have that energy and that focus. With the practice of embodying your energy and like working with different types of energy, you can actually create that focus and create that energy in your body. So like this is going to be one of the practices that we're going to be talking about here in a moment, but you can take whatever is going on elsewhere and you can actually draw in that energy, like embody what you really need. If you're in the middle of a fight with your partner, for example, and you're just like super pissed off, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, I actually like, how can I want to like be a little bit more loving here? I want to like maybe not get so wrapped up in my story and come back to the physical sensation. You just start to change those physical places in your body where you feel anger energetically into a feeling and an energy of a little bit more love, a little bit more alignment. So that was kind of a lot of information, but basically there's these 4 areas of embodiment: physical, mental, emotional, and energetic, and they all work together. You can't just have one without the other. And a lot of times we start with the physical because physical and body make sense together. But really, even if you're only working consciously on physical things, chances are you're also getting a little bit of like the mental and the emotional and the energetic as well. And my intention is to really shed light on all 4 areas equally and how we can build them all up together so that your entire being is kind of working as a team instead of like different parts, like your mind fighting your body or your emotions and your energy fighting. We want to kind of bring it all together and create this like powerful force within you so that you can totally show up as your magical, most wonderful, wild self everywhere that you go. Okay, so let's get into some of these embodiment practices. And when I'm talking about embodiment practices, these are things that, you know, you can do every day, you can do once a week. Maybe you do one for a while, try it out, and maybe you do another one. And they're all practices. Like that's the biggest thing, is that like getting into your body, it's a practice. Connecting your mind to your emotions, to your energy, to what's physically going on within you. It's a practice that has pretty much infinite levels of depth. And so there kind of is no like once and for all, like, cool, I'm embodied now, I can sit back and relax and chill out. And over time, these practices sort of become a way of being, which is really cool. But the more you practice, the more you're able to do these and connect with the practices, the easier it's going to be to simply just live the way that you want to live, feeling the way that you want to feel. Awesome. So if you're following along on the worksheet, this first practice is emotional body mapping. And so this is a process that I take my private clients through pretty extensively. We're going to just do one example of this. And so remember before when I was saying that our feelings and our emotions, they are connected to physical sensations in our body. And what I have found like so incredibly helpful is to basically take inventory of all of my emotions and learn where they live in my body, to learn where they live, you know, in my energy field. And when I feel them, what the physical sensations are, where they are, and is it like a feeling that I want or a feeling that I don't want? And is it connected to or related to other emotions and feelings, or is it like kind of a really specific set to this? And so we're gonna do 2 examples here. And the first one we're gonna do is guilt, which not everybody wants to feel, I'm guessing, but we're gonna do it just so you can kind of understand what this feels like. And then we're gonna end with joy so that you can feel, we can finish the exercise feeling really good, really solid, really into like a positive space. And the reason I like this juxtaposition is that I think guilt can be a pretty heavy feeling. It can be a pretty heavy emotion, in that a lot of us, like I don't really know if anyone feels guilt without some sort of story associated to it. So we're going to start there. And what you're going to do is you're going to sit up or stand. You're going to close your eyes. And take a couple of deep breaths, inhaling through your nose, expanding through your torso, your belly, through your lungs. And exhaling out of your mouth, softening shoulders, softening belly. Just a couple of breaths here. I want you to call to mind a time when you felt really guilty about something. This could have been recent, it could have been when you were a kid. It doesn't have to be like the most guilty you ever felt, just a time when, yeah, guilty. I want you to really put yourself into that memory, into that time. Where are you? Who, if anybody else, is around? What is the situation or circumstance that has you feeling guilty? The more details you can add, the better. Sounds, smells, what you see, what you're wearing. Like really let yourself get into that feeling. And as you're there, like building up that story in your head, noticing like, if there are any thoughts around it, like about you or about other people, like let yourself think them. And start to notice physically what's going on in your body. Notice if there's any areas that activated, any movements that happened, or any parts of your body that changed. Just become aware of that. To really anchor that feeling in, go back to that story, like really amp it up, like super, like guilt, oh man, like, oh, really feel it. Connect even further to that physical sensations that are happening in your body. And hold on to that physical sensation. Start to release the story from your mind. See if you can focus while continuing to breathe just on that physical sensation. This is what guilt looks like for you. This is where guilty lives in your body. Once you've anchored that feeling, you can open your eyes. And if you want to, you can jot down a couple of notes about, what that felt like. If you have the worksheet, I added in the little body that you can draw on if you want to, or whatever you want to do with that. And so, like for me, I always feel guilt, like right where my sternum is. I feel this like caving inward. My throat gets a little, like I want to swallow a lot. Like everything kind of just draws in my body, and it gets like heavy and hot, and like, oh, like I just feel like, ugh, like I just want to curl in and like kind of hide my head a little bit. So like that's where that lives in my body. It's very much in my chest and in my diaphragm area. And what's cool about that is I know what that feels like now, and I've practiced this, and I've like really anchored in that feeling so that when it shows up, a lot of times like the physical feeling will happen in our body almost before we go into the story in our mind. Like it's almost like the brain that lives in your gut like remembers that feeling and remembers all the stories attached to it. Like it can anticipate that this is how we're going to feel. And so now, like as soon as I start to feel that, I think like, oh man, I feel guilty. Before I even go fully into the story of why that is, I can check in and get a little bit more objective. Like, oh, guilty. Something's probably out of alignment here for me. What is that thing? Not sure. Let's investigate. And so then instead of just like, oh my God, I'm the worst, I did this bad thing, whatever, I can start to check in with it and see how that goes. So it's not necessarily pleasant to do this with like more negative emotions, but it's cool to do. And it's cool to do when you're like not in the moment of feeling them. So you start to know what it feels like first. So that you can like, it's like, if you get really angry, for example, you already know what that feels like. And if you have different types of anger, maybe like I know some, like there's, depending on who you're around or what the circumstances are, you can really start to dissect those stories and get into that mental embodiment piece. You're like, well, what is really happening in my mind here? And like, what qualities am I embodying or are not being embodied that are making me feel angry or guilty or resentful or whatever it is? And we can start to shift over into the positive, which is where we're going now. So that once, we kind of document a lot of the negative, we also document the positive. So now we're going to go into a joyful memory. No matter how you're feeling at any given time, once you've anchored that sense of joy in your body, you can start to create it whenever you want. So let's do that. Again, get into a comfortable seat. Close your eyes. Sit up tall. Just a couple of breaths here. In through the nose, filling up your lungs completely. Out through the mouth, softening and relaxing down. Dropping into joy. Call to mind a memory or a time when you felt just like, like really freaking joyful and happy. And just like everything around you, like what gave you that intense feeling of joy? I always say to my clients, this is like, if you're familiar with Harry Potter, this is the moment of like, you need to conjure up the world's most powerful Patronus because you're fighting like 4,000 Dementors. Like, what is that happiest, joyfulest, most amazing memory that you can come up with that's going to create that force to drive the evil away? So who were you with? Where were you? How old were you? What were the circumstances surrounding this feeling of joy? You put yourself into that memory. Create the sounds, the smells, the sights, the feelings. Keep breathing. And as you're there in that memory, start to notice what's happening in your body. If anything changed in the way you're being, if any areas feel more activated or more energized, or what is going on there. And keep the story, keep that memory going in your head. This most joyful thing you could possibly imagine. And start to anchor into the physical feelings in your body, physical sensation. Hold on to that and start to release what's happening in your mind, what's happening with the memory, with the story. Just present and aware of that joy and that magic right there. This is joyfulness for you. This is where joy lives in your body. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes. I want to like shake it out a little bit or just hold on to it because it's such a good feeling. And notice, where did joy show up for you? For me, it's like this like pulsating light that starts at my heart center and just spreads all around me through my body, like out into my entire energy field. It's like joy, awesomeness. And what's cool about that is like the more you can, like I said before, the more you can anchor into that feeling without needing the story or the experience to be happening. Whenever you need a little extra pick-me-up, you can create joy. You can create excitement. You can create focus. You can create whatever you want. Like if you're about to like go do a workout and you're like, oh, I'm so not motivated at all. Like that's cool. You can call to mind a time when you were super motivated and inspired and start to create that feeling and reconnect to that and channel that to go do your workout or go like, write your best-selling novel or whatever it is that you're doing. You're learning to work with energy and your emotional state and your mental state and move it into your body so that you can embody the qualities and the feelings that you want to feel whenever you want to. And so there's obviously a lot more emotions, a lot more things there. And when I work with clients, we do this pretty extensively. We do it as a practice. So maybe it's like you pick one emotion, whether it's joy or, whatever. I like joy, but whatever you want to choose. And like maybe you do that when you wake up in the morning, like first thing when you wake up, like how do I want to feel today? You lay in bed, like before you even have to get up, you can start to pull that energy in and create those physical sensations in your body. So when you're up, you're already in a good state. You're already ready to go. All right, that leads in nicely to our next one, which is morning energy engagement, which is kind of what I just said. And this can be done, with different feelings. What I specifically meant by morning energy engagement is like feeling into and connecting to your power, to your energy. First, it's an assessment of like, cool, how do I feel right now? Because sometimes, I don't know about you, sometimes in the morning, like I'm super energized. I wake up before my alarm. I'm like, sweet, let's go, ready for the day. And sometimes it's like, oh, okay, I could use about 4 more hours of sleep. And, if it's possible, get 4 more hours of sleep. But if it's not possible, it's good to kind of know, okay, this is where I'm at. I'm going to go through, for me, it's like, I'm going to go through my morning routine anyway, just do what I can. But one really cool thing that you can do is you can practice connecting into your power place, connecting into the center of your being, the center of your torso, right around, right above the belly button area. There's this, like, imagine, as we just did, this ball of light that just lives inside of you. And that might feel a little like, ooh, okay, cool. If you go on my site, there's the Power Place activation audio. So you get that when you subscribe, and it's like this 10-minute thing that takes you basically from the ground up into this feeling and this sense of being in your power. And so we activate it and engage that energy. It's this morning energy engagement, like whether you're still laying in bed or you've stood up or whatever it is, it's taking a pause and consciously connecting into that power and letting it fill up your entire body. So you feel into it, we draw it in, and then we expand it out. And you can do this if you want, like if you can do this while you're brushing your teeth, you can do this while you're in the shower, you can do this pretty much wherever. And it's like, just take a second and put your feet on the floor, like feel yourself grounded somewhere. Connect into that power center, connect into that light. And as you breathe, with every inhale, it gets a little bit brighter. With every exhale, it diffuses into your body. For inhale, it gets a little bit more powerful, like you're connecting in and creating that that infinite strength, that infinite whatever it is you're looking for. And really focusing your mind, your mental capacities, the mental embodiment of this practice is really focusing on that light and connecting into that and not thinking about all the other stuff that you have to do or whatever else is imminent in your life. Emotionally as well, when we connect into that place, it's like you can infuse that with a little extra oomph if you want to add in the energetic connection, the emotion that you want to feel, whatever you want to feel when you're in there. When I'm there, I just I go there and I'm like this unstoppable warrior woman who can do whatever I want in the world. And that's what fuels my power. That's what fuels that ball of energy. And that's one of the best ways that I know to get connected on all 4 levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically. Awesome. So next up, we have what I call a physical wake up, physically waking up your body and waking up your nerve endings. And so there's a couple of different ways that this can look, and it's awesome to do it in your full body. I've learned this, some of these from a couple of different mentors of mine. And what's really amazing is so this is something that I learned when I was maybe 14, and I've seen it replicated a bunch of times, is if you take parts of your body and you're okay, I'm really tired, but if you shake your arm around and if you're shaking and move, we used to do this with our wrists, shake it down, you shake everything out, maybe you go down to your legs, go down to your knees, shake out your feet, shake out your head, and just your whole body shake and like let it be kind of loose. And as you shake it out, I want you to try that. And you take a second. It's like you're waking up your physical body. You can start to feel like energy around you and in you. It gets your nerves and your cells to like pay attention. Like, oh, we're moving here. We're doing this stuff. This is happening. And another way that you can do it is like, you can tap on your body. I learned this from one of my mentors, Laura Haynes Franklin. You tap on your body, and you can tap your whole body, and just like it sends signals through your nerves like, hey, pay attention. Here's where my body is in space. Here's areas that need a little bit extra stimulation, a little more blood flow. Wake that up. We're going to physically get in my body. So I'm doing a couple things here. I'm waking up my cells, and I'm getting better connected to where my body is in space, like what it's doing, where it's located. And this is even more powerful if while you're doing it, you're focusing your mind just on that task. You're getting really present to what you're doing. And again, trying not to let that mind wander too much, but being like, okay, cool. Like, I'm hitting my knees now. I'm hitting my shoulders, my collarbones, my cheeks. This is what I'm doing right now. Getting your whole being connected and lined up with that. And I do this all the time. I do it when I wake up. I do it if I'm sitting at my computer for too long. I'll like stand up and shake and tap and move everything around and just get that energy flowing again so that I can get back into my body and out of my head. It's great if you're like trying to solve a problem or you're getting stuck or you're frustrated. Like if you ever find yourself like, stand up, shake yourself out, just like total reset. Even better if you can like bend over and like shake out your head upside down. So you just get a whole new rush of blood flowing in to your head, flowing into your creative possibilities. And just the more we can continually wake up and connect with our bodies and connect that to what's going on in our head, what's going on with our emotions, what's going on with our energy, the more we're able to then go back to, well, okay, how do I want to feel? This is my pause. This is my wake up. What emotion, what feeling, what quality would I prefer to embody right now if it's not where I'm at? Or if you're feeling good already, like, ooh, how can I feel even better? What can I do to feel even more amazing right now? The next one on this list is the breath of fire. And the breath of fire, this is a yoga breathing technique. Before we do this, there's another breathing that I'd actually like to do. And we'll get to the breath of fire, but I want to do just like, I honestly don't know if this has a specific name, just call it like compartmentalized breathing. And this is a way of kind of checking out where airflow goes normally in your body. So if you just sit and you're breathing, where does your air go? I want you to kind of notice that for a second here. Is it mostly in the upper chest? Does it go down into your belly? You're breathing into your back. And like without changing it, just noticing it. Like when you breathe into your shoulders hunch, where does your air generally go? Maybe you're breathing more into your left side than your right. And so compartmentalized breathing, this is where we're going to kind of fill up our body in three parts. So the first third of your breath is going to fill up your like lower belly area. The second third of your breath is going to fill up to like mid ribs, like mid chest, like mostly the diaphragm area. And then the third, you can actually see this here, is going to fill up like the upper lungs into the shoulders, into the shoulder blades. Cool. So we're just going to do this like, we're going to do 3 breaths here. And this is something that I would recommend maybe doing like, you can do more, do 10, whatever fits into your schedule. We're doing 3 of these breaths together. So exhale all of your air out. As you inhale first third, just fill up your lower belly and pause. Second third, fill up into your diaphragm and pause. Third third, you're going to fill up into your upper chest and lungs. And pause, feel that breath, feel that air. And then as you exhale, slowly release it all out. Again, inhale, filling up through the first third of your body, your lower belly. Pause. Filling up through the second third. Pause. Up through the upper chest. Feel that full air, feel it in your body. And slowly exhale out through the mouth. Do this one more time. Inhale, first part. Second part. Third part. Slowly exhale. And you can notice as you do this, as you breathe, I at least feel like my energy level, like not in a bad way, but it got lower, like my energy grounded a little bit there. It's also really interesting to notice in these breathing practices where your body gets uncomfortable. Like a lot of times my right shoulder will get kind of tight, and it's like I'll feel it if I'm like trying to control my breath. I'll feel my shoulder tense up kind of in response because it's something unfamiliar. Just becoming aware of that, becoming aware of what physically is going on in your body, and noticing how that affects your mental state, how that affects your energy, where that's at. And that breathing is always like, it's a good time to slow it down and check in. Cool. So the breath of fire, Kapala body breathing, this one is a little bit more intense. So if you start to get lightheaded, or if it's just really not feeling right in your body, don't do it. Just don't. I think it's also like if you're pregnant, don't do that. Maybe I should have looked up when you shouldn't do this, but most people this is totally fine. All right, noted. I will put that in the notes for later. And so what this looks like is what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in all the way, and then it's like a forceful exhale that immediately draws an inhale back in. It's like you're hollowing out your lower belly. And I can't really talk while I'm doing it, so I'm going to describe it first, then show you, and then we're going to do it together. And this is really good for like stoking the fires of your belly, for like getting you connected in again physically to that power place, for working your digestion, for just totally amping up your energy here. And so with that, I'm going to show you what that looks like with the inhale, and I'm going to just do like 10. So awesome. So it's like, that's what it looks like. It's like breathing out through your nose forcefully, and then the air kind of just like comes back in. And as you breathe out, your belly, you draw your belly in. So it's this like exhale, pull in, inhale, and your belly's moving while you're breathing. So we're going to try this together. We're going to do like 30. And if you need to stop, totally no big deal. Take a regular breath. It's something you practice up to. So exhale all your air out, sit up tall. I'm not going to talk, so when we do this, we're just going to do it, and you're going to do it with me. Okay, exhale all your air out. Inhale. And go. When you're done, take a full inhale. And a normal exhale. I don't even know if you could hear me do that, but it's like this, like you can hear it go out, 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 out. And so then the next step after that, and a lot of times in a yoga class, we'll do that and then we'll go right into practice. So if you're not going to immediately move your body and deliberately breathe, you might feel like a little bit heady up here. I want you to take that energy that you've created, and as you inhale and exhale, like with full breaths, as best as you can, draw that down into your body and focus your energy down into your belly and into your root. So you're feeling there's like a heightened sensation of energy up here, but you're also at the same time connecting in towards your belly, connecting in toward the ground. So you just kind of have like this higher level of vibration energy overall. That one's a good one to do if you kind of need like a reset, like a reconnect, refocus, and do this breathing. And if you just need like a little bit of extra fire in your day, a little bit of extra push, a little bit of extra motivation. So it's really hard to think about anything else while you're doing that. So it's a really good practice in presence. All right, so the last one that we have on this list, I called magic moments. And this is something that I've been doing. My word of the year last year was magic. And so I had alarms set in my phone pretty much every hour that would go off and say like magical moment, or like you are magic. And it would remind me, the reminder was to pause. And there was a couple different things that I would do. It was to look around me wherever I was in that moment and to discover the magic that was there. So what could I appreciate about this moment? What could I find magical or delightful or wondrous about this moment? And this was a really cool way of for me, like I could have been like, rushing down the street in Chicago, and my phone would go off and I would check it and be like, oh God, who's calling me? And I'd look and be like, oh yeah, pause, ground my feet, like get into my body, look around. What is magical right now? What is happening right now? It's also a great reminder of me too, to come back to my body mapping, my embodiment of this feeling of magicalness, this feeling of joyfulness. Like, yeah, cool. Get that feeling back, put it in, drop it into my body right here. It's like drop whatever I'm doing and reconnect to the physical, mental, emotional, and energetic state of magical. And this can be anything you want. It could simply be a reminder to like do one of these other embodiment practices. You can set it in your phone once a day, twice a day, whatever it is, and use these reminders to create practices. What I've found is that, at least for me and for my clients, like we have this tendency to like get a list of practices and be like, awesome, I'm adding them all in. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day and I'm just going to knock all this out. And then the first day that doesn't happen, it might happen for a couple of days, feel like a total failure. And I would rather, you try one of these a couple times a week, or like when you remember, or set the magic moment, set that in your phone and create the time to do it, but not having to do everything, not having to do it all the time, not having to be perfect about it. Because if we're trying to be perfect and we miss once, it's really easy to be like, oh, feck it, like I can't do it. I'd like tried to swear there and then I felt weird about it, so I didn't. So that was really funny. Anyway, coming back, it's like we try and do it and then it's like, oh, I'm a failure, I messed up, can't do it, and then get discouraged. And that's not what I want for myself, and I'm guessing that's not what you want for yourself. I'm not going to presume to know what you want for yourself. But the thing is, like little practices like this, like 2 minutes, random intervals throughout the day, can make a huge, huge difference into dialing in, tuning in, becoming more aware, and becoming more present in your body, in your life, and having a better handle on the thoughts that you think, the emotions that you feel, and being okay with more fully experiencing the good, really being in the good, being in that magic, being in your body. Like when we physically feed our body, when we physically nourish our body, it creates more capacity for ourselves to be nourished mentally, to start to change or shift some of the patterns that we have if they're not what we want. Like if you're someone who does live most of your life in your head or is totally caught up in emotions and stories and everything like that, some of these might be really challenging. And like the running commentary might be like, this is stupid, this is stupid, this is stupid. Okay, I guess that was fine, but really this is stupid. So that's fine. Like just notice that about yourself. And the biggest thing about becoming embodied, becoming someone who wants to live life on purpose and to really be who you want to be and how you take responsibility for how you show up in the world, is that it doesn't have to be heavy, right? You can come at it with like this sense of curiosity and a little bit of playfulness, and this notice what happens within you when you start some of these practices, as you maybe wake up to a couple of running stories or beliefs that aren't really what you want to have, but it's like hilarious how often they actually show up in your life. And really you get to choose. And so what I'm going to ask of you today is that you make a commitment to yourself. What practices or practice do you want to commit to? And there's no right or wrong answer, but it is important because there is a certain energy in deciding and committing. Like, yeah, I am going to live more embodied. I am going to take better care of my mental, emotional, physical, and energetic states. And that might look like, doing all of these every day. It might look like trying one out once a week. If you can, I'd recommend picking at least one. And for the next 21 days. Try it out daily. Set that timer in your phone. Connect into your magic, connect into your joy. Like, get connected to where your body is in space. And you choose. And honestly, like, I would love to know what you choose and how it goes. So leave a comment below about what your commitment is to yourself, what your commitment is to your embodiment practice. And if you have a different practice that you love, I would love for you to share it. So put it on down there. And just as a reminder, so there was the emotional body mapping. We had morning energy engagement, feeling your power place and drawing it in, drawing it into yourself, feeling that energy and drawing it in, physically waking up your body. Compartmentalized breathing and the breath of fire, and then magical moments, setting those for yourself. So I want to know, I hope you enjoyed this. Love talking about this stuff, so if you ever have any questions, drop me a line, shoot me an email, kate@katemerolt.com, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Here's to embodiment, here's to fully expressing yourself, your magic, your power. Have a fantastic day.